Morning, everyone. Whoo boy. Michelle Rempel is very, very upset. Very upset. And she explains the SNC Lavalin affair very well in this 9-minute, 10-minute clip. And this is posted on her Facebook page. So link will be in the description. Unblock me, Michelle. I'm a nice guy. And anyway, I'm going to show you about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes of this. This is the meat and potatoes of this. She calls Trudeau a fake feminist. She says maybe SNC Lavalin shouldn't be bribing people, and maybe there's a cost to that behavior. And then she finishes with Trudeau needs to stand in front of the committee, and you backbenchers need to stand up, basically, because we're talking about the rule of law, like really rule of law, and Justin Trudeau is absolutely flouting it. And we're going to look at all the ways they're flouting it in two specific bills, Bill C-74 and Bill C-75. And then we're going to look at Miss Wilson-Raybould, who is supposed to testify today. And she says, it's not enough. I need to have more things waived in order to tell my story. First, here's Michelle Rempel. Here we go.
The cloak to get votes, and then when the rubber hits the road, when lobbyists come upon him, she experienced it differently. She should have done something else. That is garbage and disgusting. And he needs to be held in front of that committee to be accountable for that. Because you don't get to stand up and say you're a feminist and then do that to a woman. You just don't. He's also kept her silent. He's kept her on a muzzle and a leash while he goes out and spins this story. And that's disgusting. That's wrong. He needs to be held to account for that. And finally, as a Calgary MP, deferred prosecution agreements, you're not supposed to consider economic arguments. And then the clerk of the Privy Council gets in front of the Justice Committee and goes, I told the former Attorney General it's about the economic argument. A lot of jobs were at stake. You know what? Maybe the company shouldn't have bribed Libyan officials to begin with, shouldn't have bribed people for contracts. Maybe there should be a cost to doing that. Because you know what? The people in my riding, where's the economic considerations for all of the punitive policies they've put against Alberta energy companies? My riding is looking at this and going, why does Montreal get deferred prosecution agreements? And as we found out today, the government's considering changing the rules, so even if they are convicted, that they can still bid on federal contracts. Why are those jobs better than my jobs? The role of a prime minister is to unite our country. All jobs are important. You should stand for justice. This is disgusting. This is what every single one of us in this place should be standing against, regardless of political stripe. And Mr. Speaker, to every person standing on that backbench, you are not here for yourself. They're not there for themselves. They're there to stand up for justice and their community. And their role is to hold the government to account, even if that government is of the same partisan stripe as they are. This is where the rubber hits the road. This is where you stand for what's right, or you stand for nothing at all. The Prime Minister.
Yes, Michelle, bravo. Honestly, the whole 10 minutes is worth your watch. The link is in the description. She tears a strip off Trudeau and continues tearing strips off him and his no spine backbenchers, all of whom are remaining silent while this absolutely despicable act continues right in front of us. They're changing rules. They're sneaking criminal code changes into all sorts of little bills. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about right now. This is Bill C-74, and this is what brought into force the remediation agreement. Before this, a whole list of criminal code violations previously were indictable offenses, right? And now, thanks to this remediation agreement, which was brought into play in the summer of 2018 by not the Attorney General, but by a budgetary finance committee, they changed the laws. So it says, quote, remediation agreement means an agreement between an organization accused of having committed an offense and a prosecutor to stay any proceedings related to that offense if the organization complies with the terms of the agreement. Okay, so that's the short version of what a remediation agreement is. And I'm going to get to, there it is, the list of which offenses a remediation agreement may be entered to. Okay, so here it is. This is Schedule 12, and you can search for yourself the whole bill Everything I always talk about it, links are in the description. So offenses in respect of which a remediation agreement may be entered into. 1. An offense under any of the following provisions of this act. Section 119 or 120. I'm not gonna read the sections. I'm just gonna read the offenses, okay? Bribery of officers, fraud of the government, municipal corruption, selling or purchasing office, influencing or negotiating appointments or dealing in offices, obstructing justice, theft by persons required to account, misappropriation of money held under direction, destroying documents of title, fraudulent concealment, property obtained by crime, false pretense or false statement, obtaining execution of valuable security by fraud, forgery, use, trafficking, or possession of forged document, obtaining by instrument based on forged document, offenses in relation to registered. Sorry, I want to make sure you know what this means. Obtaining by instrument based on forged document. It means like you forge the deed to a house or the deed to a building or something like that and start collecting rent, right? So that's, you're like, oh yeah, that's totally mine. See, look, I own it, right? I just bought it from your old tenant or whatever, your old landlord. Here it is. That's what that is, I believe, anyway. Here we go. Forgery, offenses in relation to registers. Fraud, fraudulent manipulation of stock exchange transactions, prohibited insider trading, gaming in stocks or merchandise, fraudulent disposal of goods on which money advanced, fraudulent receipts under Bank Act, disposal of property to defraud creditors, books and documents, false prospectus, selling defective stores to Her Majesty, and secret commissions. So, if you've done any of those things, and you're a big enough company to have a lawyer that can help you negotiate a remediation agreement, and possibly, if you have the phone number of Justin Trudeau, and you want to have it done, but his Attorney General doesn't agree with you, if you have enough jobs in Quebec, he'll make a call and shuffle his cabinet and remove that darned Attorney General who said no. Right? Isn't that list of offenses pretty serious? If you were charged with bribery or frauds in the government or obstructing justice, if Mr. Trudeau was charged with obstructing justice, wouldn't he face 10 years in jail? Wouldn't he? Or would he just have to pay a fine? I wonder if he could enter into a remediation agreement. Sir, I'm not Mr. Trudeau. I'm the corporation of Justin Trudeau. As the corporation, I'm the Prime Minister of Canada. Yes, nice to meet you, Corporation Justin Trudeau. Would you like to enter into this remediation agreement with us so that you can break the law? Yes, I would. Right? Is all that it takes to break the law having a big enough company, or do you have to have the political connections too? That's my question. I'm just bankrolling something on the side, right? I just like to know exactly how much. And should it all be focused in Quebec, or do I need to spread it around the Middle East as well? Disgusting. Here's the next one. So that was Bill C-74. This is Bill C-75, and there's not as handy a list, but I wanted to show you. I'll show you a list, and then I'll show you an example. Okay, so here's a list. This is from CanadaPoly.com. Please come and join the conversation. We'd love to have you. Post a link, have a discussion. We will not silence you on my website. So anyway, that said, here's a C-75 hybrid offenses quick reference sheet. It looks like a list of crimes reduced to fines, and crimes that would be committed by people who are maybe illegally jumping across the border. It says 1, sabotage. 2, possession of forged document, possession of passport or something like that. Fraudulent use of citizenship or certificate. Certificate of citizenship. 4, offenses in relation to military forces, punishment of rioter, concealment of identity, neglect by peace officer, unlawful drilling, orders by governor and council, possession of explosive, note change in the title of the offense, providing or collecting property for certain activities, frauds on the government, breach of trust by police officer, municipal corruption, influencing a municipal official, selling or purchasing office. That's bribing an official to do what you want, selling or purchasing office. Influencing or negotiating appointments or dealing in offices, disobeying a statute, offenses relating to affidavits, obstructing justice. Okay, so that's just a smattering of lists, like corrupting children's on here, assisting prisoners of war to escape. All of these things are dead body interception. All of these things are listed in this bill. And here's passport possession. So passport possession of forged passport, etc. Every person who, with lawful excuse, has in their possession a forged, or without lawful excuse, has in their possession a forged passport or a passport in respect of which an offense under subsection 2 has been committed, is guilty of A, an indictable offense, and liable to imprisonment for a term not more than 5 years, or punishment, an offense by punishable on summary conviction. Summary conviction is a fine. That's all that is. And it changed from Well, it was changed from here's the original and what is currently in place, because this Bill C-75 has not reached royal assent yet, okay? Royal assent means it becomes law and the changes take effect. So this is what the forged passport section looked like and looks like now, and this is the law of the land currently. The Liberals want to change it with adding a summary offense to the options for the judge. Okay, so 57.1, everyone who, while in or out of Canada, A, forges a passport or knowing that a passport is forged, causes or attempts to cause any person to use, deal with, or act on it as if the passport were genuine. 2, everyone who, while in or out of Canada for the purposes of procuring a passport for himself or any other person for the purposes of procuring any material or addition or alteration or addition to any such passport, makes a written or an oral statement that he knows is false or misleading with regards to the passport. Every person who without lawful excuse has their possession a forged passport or a passport in respect of which an offense under subsection 2 has been committed is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term not more than 5 years, 5 years in jail. For the purposes of proceedings under this section, the place where the passport was forged is not material, so it doesn't matter if it was made in Canada or elsewhere. So the proposed change is they want to remove the 5 years, they want to reduce it, they don't want to remove the 5 years, they want to leave the 5 years, but add a summary conviction. And so why is that bad? Why is a summary offense bad? Here is what a summary conviction or a summary offense is in Canada. A summary offense conviction is the Canadian equivalent of a misdemeanor. This means that the violation is not considered serious and brings with it a lighter sentence of resolution and expectation. On the other hand, an indictable offense is like a felony, and the court considers this a, quote, full crime that it will resolve in court as such with much harsher punishment. People facing summary convictions have very different experiences from people facing indictable convictions, and the consequences are very far-ranging. No jury required. Summary offenses are treated far less intensely, and one of the things that may happen with a summary offense is that it will be felt that no jury is needed. So rather than a prolonged court session where a jury must be presented with evidence, then weigh that evidence and reach a verdict, in a summary conviction case, the judge may make the final decision. Summary convictions also have a statute of limitations. In most summary conviction situations, charges must be laid within 6 months of the violation occurring. After that, if no charges are laid, the, quote, crime is essentially ignored. If a case does go to court, it always goes to provincial court and stays there. In fact, someone charged with a summary offense may not even have to go to court. A lawyer or other agent can act on that person's behalf, and the consequences are far less severe. Wow. So they're changing forging a passport from 5-year minimum jail sentence, which is the current law of the land, to something that people can just have a summary conviction on. That seems like a bad idea. Here's fraudulent use of citizenship. Each person is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a time of not more than 2 years, or is guilty of an offense punishable on summary conviction, who, while in or outside Canada, the portion of subsection 58.1, blah, 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 blah. So I'm telling you, they're adding summary convictions to a whole host of crimes. And I haven't gone through this whole bill. It's a big bill. I've got lots and lots to do. But feel free to go through it for yourself. I'm going to go through and look at a couple of things. No, we've got lots of other stuff to do. I'm sorry, we've got lots of other stuff to get to. So, but this is incredible, really. This is just trying to classify something as serious as that to a summary conviction, which allows all sorts of legal wiggle room and kind of agreed upon 6-month sunset clause. Like, if you don't get caught in 6 months, you got away with it, buddy. High five. And if you do get caught, you just get your lawyer to act on your behalf with all that sweet, sweet ill-gotten gains, right? Man, just seems crazy. Do these backbenching liberals know what they're doing, or are they just so taken with the hair that they're not bothering to read these things? Here's Mrs. Wilson-Raybould. City TV is reporting Wilson-Raybould warns she still can't tell the full SNC Lavalin story. Quote, Jody Wilson-Raybould finally gets a chance this Wednesday to speak her truth about SNC Lavalin affair, breaking a 3-week silence that has fueled a controversy based so far strictly on anonymous allegations of political interference in the justice system. But the former Attorney General is already warning that her hotly anticipated testimony before the House of Commons Justice Committee won't tell the whole story because she claims an unprecedented order in council waiving solicitor-client privilege and cabinet confidentiality doesn't go far enough to let her speak freely. The waiver is a, quote, step in the right direction, she wrote to the committee on Tuesday, but it, quote, falls short of what is required. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau issued the waiver Monday. It covers Wilson-Raybould's time as Justice Minister and Attorney General, the post she held when his office is alleged to have exerted improper pressure on her last fall to halt the criminal prosecution of Montreal engineering giant SNC Lavalin on charges of corruption and bribery related to the government contracts in Libya. Wouldn't it be nice if you could bribe people with reckless abandon and then be like, no, it's the cost of doing business. We have to do it in Libya and in Montreal. And in Montreal too. Oh, right, yeah. Interesting. Back to the article. Wilson-Raybould has cited solicitor-client privilege and cabinet confidentiality repeatedly over the past 3 weeks to refuse comment on the allegation. But she now says she needs those restrictions waived not just for the time when she was Attorney General, but also for anything that was said or done after she was shuffled on January 14th to the Veterans Affairs post, including her eventual resignation from Cabinet a month later and her presentation to Cabinet last week about her reasons for resigning. Quote, I mention this simply to alert the committee to the fact that the order in council leaves in place whatever restraints there are on my ability to speak freely about matters that occurred after I left the post of Attorney General, she told the committee. But Conservatives' Deputy Leader, Lisa Raitt, has speculated that it may have been only after Wilson-Raybould was demoted to Veterans Affairs that she realized that she was being punished for refusing to instruct the Director of Public Prosecutions to negotiate a remediation agreement with SNC Lavalin, a kind of plea bargain that would require the company to pay restitution but avoid the potentially financially crippling impact of a criminal conviction. Hold on, I want to hold City TV to account here. SNC Lavalin is a multi-billion-dollar multinational company. They bought Atkins for $1.3 billion last February. They could easily shift all of their operations to the United Kingdom, which already has this deferred prosecution or remediation agreement in place if they wanted to. So maybe we're talking about 3,000 Canadian jobs. Trudeau says 9,000. But painting this in a potentially financially crippling impact, come on, get real. Learn something about the case, for crying out loud. Back to the article. Any questioning of Wilson-Raybould along those lines will presumably lead nowhere today. Nevertheless, Wilson-Raybould's testimony, including a 30-minute opening statement she requested but complained Tuesday won't be sufficient time to provide a full, complete version of events, should finally provide some details about precisely what the former minister may have deemed improper pressure. I highlighted this in red because I wanted to remind you before I read this out how insane Mr. Michael Wernick's testimony to the last week was, and I can't remember who he was testifying to, so hold on a second. I believe it was the Justice Committee, but he was spouting insane conspiracy theories about somebody getting shot because people are using traitor in regular Discord in Canada. And the absolute insanity of the left to get us to believe that, while at the same time forcing us to agree with all of their other... I mean, Adam Vaughan, the Liberal MP for Child and Family, whatever, said, let's whack Doug Ford. Let's whack him. And everybody said, no problem. And this guy comes in and says, people talking about traitors leads to assassinations. How about your MP calling for whacking a sitting premier? Come on. Like the cognitive dissonance to take issue with being called a traitor. And what Trudeau's doing is absolutely setting up a two-tiered legal system. And he's doing it with impunity. Traitorous. Absolutely traitorous what he's doing. And so a thinking person would come to that conclusion. So this person coming out in his testimony, and I believe it was to the Justice Committee, saying, oh, talk like that is leading to assassination. No, I don't want Trudeau to die. I want him held to account. I want him to face the consequences of his actions because it's criminal what he's done. Not just the obstruction of justice of his Attorney General, but everything else. The selling out of Canada, the changing the laws in order to get his SNC Lavalin buddies a break on criminal charges while at the same time holding Alberta underwater while it slowly suffocates, right? Like we can see this. And Mr. Wernick, if you can't see this, get help. Anyway, this is the article's take on Mr. Wernick's crazy diatribe the other day. He says, quote, or the article says, quote, last week, Privy Council Clerk Michael Wernick told the committee that, in his view, everyone in the Prime Minister's office conducted themselves with the highest standards of integrity, that no inappropriate pressure was put on Wilson-Raybould, and that Trudeau repeatedly assured her that the decision on SNC Lavalin prosecution was hers alone. Right. I'm sure Trudeau repeatedly said that, while Wernick, Telford, and Butts put the full court press on her to get that overturned and make sure that SNC Lavalin faced no criminal charges and absolutely no consequences for their actions, preferably, right? That's exactly what was happening. And then we see the resignation of GM Butts, right? Nothing to see here, folks. He was resigning anyway. Here's your severance package for resigning that job. What? Yeah, that happened too. Check my other videos. So the incredible cognitive dissonance of these liberals has led to a very long video this morning, so I apologize for my ranting. But man, Michelle Rempel was mad, and I'm mad too. I hope we get a new government in October. I hope a lot of things. But thanks for watching. Keep watching. This is just heating up. This is just getting good. Have a wonderful day. Check out thepeoplespartyofcanada.ca. Thanks for watching, everybody.